Hello, today's video is a quick clip on the misunderstanding of the Bruce Lee quote about being like water. So many of us are familiar with Bruce Lee saying, be like water, and a lot of us think it's be fluid and be able to adapt to certain things. In the actual full-length saying, he goes on to say about how it can be really gentle or it can crash. So it can be really gentle and smooth a pebble down over years, or it can crash and break things and be destructive. But it's always flowing. It's always adaptable to things, and that's what we tend to think of it. It's be like water. We think of it as being adaptable. He goes on to say that when you pour water into a teapot, the water becomes the teapot. Now, this is a vitally important thing that I think a lot of people miss with it. As well as being adaptable and don't be rigid in what you're doing, if you pour water into a container, the water becomes the container. If you're going to do something, do it 100%. If you're in your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class, while you're going over something, don't be thinking about the new technique or the new combo you're going to do in your Thai class on Thursday. If you're in your boxing class, 100% be about the punches. Don't be thinking about the new choke you've got for your next judo class. Whatever it is you're doing, marinate in it. Become it. Don't half-ass anything. Whenever you're doing something, give that something 100% of your attention. Live it, breathe it. When Bas Rutten, one of the greatest martial artists of all time, when he was fighting, he had post-it notes all over his house, not just in his office or around it, everywhere. His house was covered in post-it notes with little suggestions and ideas he had. He would dream a technique, wake his wife up, and say, "Just give me your arm a minute." Right? I'm sure she loved that, but that was it, because he was all about it. He was 100% about that. If you look at some of the best actors like Marlon Brando would become the character. He wouldn't switch it on, switch it off for each take. He would become the character. He was 100% about it. That's what you need to be. So if you're trying to pursue a career, say, in writing, you need to be 100% about writing. You need to become the writing. If you are trying to develop, I'll say you're trying to develop your judo. If you're trying to develop your judo, it's not enough to show up once a week to a judo session and expect to go to the Olympics. Yeah, you don't get professional results from amateur hours. So if you're trying to progress really quickly in your judo and get much better at your judo, you need to be watching documentaries about it. You need to be watching fight clips. You need to be getting interviews with people who've won championships. You need to be taking yourself off to seminars. You need to be getting in touch with people and joining groups online about judo. You need to become it. You need to become obsessed by it. Bruce Lee was an obsessive. That's a big thing that we sort of overlook about him, is he was obsessive. He kept a training diary every day of all the kicks he did. There was a thing about him having, he had to throw 100 kicks at the bag perfectly. If he got to 99 and he messed it up, he started again at 0, went 1. So he'd be there till he threw 100 perfect kicks. Today, we'd probably try and get the guy to see a doctor, get him on pills for that. He was able to harness that and did amazing things. It's becoming it. You pour water into a teapot, the water becomes the teapot. So you don't need to necessarily do that all day, every day, but when you're doing something, be 100% that thing. So if you're taking an evening class to learn another language, from the time you leave your house, you need to be thinking in that language. You need to make a promise to yourself that on the day you go to those classes, you're going to try to think just in that language. You're going to use your first language as little as possible. So you don't just go to a Spanish class, you live that whole day as a Spanish person in Spain. You become it, you try to think it, you dream it, everything happens in that language. The following day, go back to how you were, but for the time you're doing it, you need to be it, you need to do it 100%. The other thing he talks about is being like water. If you leave water stagnant and it stands still, it goes off. It starts to smell really horrible and funny. Things start to live in it. You need to constantly be flowing. you need to constantly be moving. You need to constantly be progressing. You need to constantly be trying to better yourself. Don't allow yourself to become stagnant. Don't allow yourself to get stuck in a rut. When you get stuck in a rut with life, it's when depression starts to seep in. If you are stagnant in your life, you get into a habit of get up, go to work, come home, stuff my face with junk food, sit and watch TV for several hours, go to sleep, get up, go to work, come home, stuff my face. That's no good. That's not really living. That's just slowly killing yourself. So water needs to constantly flow. Even if it's a large body of water, like a lake, and you go, well, lakes don't flow. Yes, they do because of the water cycle. His point was, you need to keep moving. You need to keep doing. You need to keep living. Another one of his sayings was that time is the most precious commodity you have, because once it's gone, you can't replace it. So use your time wisely. Don't allow yourself to relax too much. When you are doing something, make sure you are there 100% in that moment. The Japanese tea ceremony, I know Bruce Lee was Chinese American, not Japanese. The Japanese tea ceremony has absolutely nothing to do with martial arts whatsoever. It's purely about when you're serving tea, making that cup of tea, you focus on that cup of tea 100%. That's what this was about. It was an exercise to focus the mind, so that for the time you're doing this one thing, you do this one thing. Don't be thinking about a million different things. Don't be, if we're in a if we're sparring, and you start thinking about, got to get a babysitter for the weekend, I've got to get home and make the kids lunches, I've got to do that presentation tomorrow morning at the office. What's going to happen there is I'm going to kick you very hard in the leg, and I'm going to keep teeing off on you because you're not focusing on what we're doing. If you focus on what you're doing, you will get more out of it. If you had someone who goes to say a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu club, and you've got someone who goes twice a week, but for the 2 times a week they're there, they are nowhere else. They are 100% in that class. Everything that is being said and done, they are taking in, they are storing. On the drive home, they are replaying what happened. They get home, they look it up. They go, okay, that's how I defend from that, so that will never happen to me again. That person with just 2 sessions a week is going to get so much more out of it than someone who goes every day and doesn't try. They go every day and they spend half the time talking about stuff that happened on TV last night. When you're doing something, do it fully. Be it. Become the teapot. Any questions, comments, or suggestions? Please let me know. Please do like and share this video. Please subscribe to the channel. And as always, be vigilant.